Today we're going to talk about something about the market expectation and the future of capital and financial market.
Right.
Yeah. Nowadays, people seems to be very bullish on the financial market in general. The stock market, Dow Jones, S&P is record high. Also in Thailand, the SET is quite high, very high as well, and the bond yield is very low. In your idea, I heard that you are quite in a bearish camp. You have talked in CNBC in England saying that it is quite bad. So what is your perspective of the financial market in general?
Yeah, I think I upset a lot of people when I was in London last week because everybody seemed to want to have a big party when we get new record high on the S&P. And I think, my concern is that we're getting financial markets that are, at very, very expensive valuations, and they're getting further and further apart from the real economy, which isn't performing that well. Now this is true in the States, and it's also true in a lot of the developed global economies, in the big economies. So we're seeing very, very expensive asset prices that, to me, just aren't supported by all the economic fundamentals out there.
So what is the reason behind that?
Okay, well I think maybe there are a number of reasons, but the most obvious one, the biggest one, seems to be that we're in a period of financial manipulation. I think if you look at the policies that we've seen from central banks over the last few years, we've seen a massive expansion in central bank balance sheets, and I think you brought a chart in that shows the big four central bank balance sheets, and these seem to be expanding. There's a lot of talk out there about
3-4 times.
3-4 times exactly. It's totally unprecedented. We've never seen policy like this. We've never seen a situation like this before. And one of the things that I think maybe people haven't noticed is that if we look at the Fed balance sheet over the last year or so, everybody's heard about all the talk of tapering. Well, the Fed balance sheet is still getting bigger and bigger all the time. It's still getting more and more bloated. And I think that's one of the reasons where, if you look on your dollar versus euro chart, the ECB balance sheet hasn't grown to anything like the same extent. So I think that explains a lot of the weakness that we're seeing in the US dollar versus the euro. The euro is a currency with an awful lot of problems, but at least the ECB
stronger.
Exactly, stronger, because it's been less manipulated. The ECB balance sheet hasn't grown nearly as much. So I think that what the central banks are doing is really underlying a lot of the asset markets much, much more than fundamental economic activity is. And to me, that's a real worry.
All right. So, but some people say that that's the reason why. I mean, the capital. The QE or capital injection in the U.S. That's some of the reason why the U.S. economy is becoming growing up lately compared to the European country that maybe quite face the problem of deflation and everything. So you don't think that is the case, right? This is an illusion or something?
I think we have to be very careful when we look at some of these metrics in the States. And certainly, as you say, the headlines look great, and a lot of people are talking about those. But I think if we look behind the headlines, there's a lot of real problems in there. So, people are talking about the unemployment rate improving. But actually, if we look at the number of people who have jobs, if we look at the employment rate, the participation rate, that's getting worse and worse all the time. And it's fallen from, historic averages to extremely low levels right now. So whatever the official data and stats may say about employment in the States, too many people don't have jobs, and the ones that do have jobs have part-time jobs or low-paid jobs. There's I think it's 1/6, 1 out of every 6 American households is living on food stamps right now. They're having to get that kind of aid from the state, and 1 out of every 2 households are earning less than they're spending, so they're getting deeper and deeper into debt. So, if you look at metrics like that, it's very difficult to see how a consumer-driven economy like the States, where consumer spending is about 70% of GDP and GDP growth, it's very difficult to see how that economy is going to recover. And that's why I think if we look at longer-term GDP trends, or if we look at other trends like retail, they're all very negative. Exactly. We're just seeing this gradual, slow, and so unless we see any kind of rebound in that kind of data, then I'm really not convinced by a few nice headlines about employment or other data that uses